Yo, what is up, Geek Corner? This is your boy, Earth Mac, the mad scientist, and welcome back to the Orange Phoenix Media channel and another episode of Saturday Morning Comics, man. So I'm a little, I wouldn't say under the weather, because I'm not under the weather, I'm not sick, but allergies kicking my ass. I'm telling you right now. Trying not to sneeze on the on the live. But anyway, welcome back to Saturday Morning Comics Live. Man, I hope you guys got your cup of coffee. I hope you guys got your bowl of cereal if you're not really much of a coffee drinker. Ladies that come out and see me on a Saturday Morning Comics show, man, I know you still got the bonnet on. You in the house, it's whatever. I know you still got the robe on, with the calf muscle out. I know it's still out there. Y'all in the house. It is what it is. Man, we gonna talk comics today, as always. You already know what to do. If you are a newcomer to this channel, we do Saturday Morning Comics at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I can say at least 90% of the time we do our lives, right? But I will tell you, just a little bit of house cleaning. So if your first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like what we're talking about, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that like button. And if there's a hype button available on your side, go ahead and hit that hype button because that goes a little bit further than the like button. And go ahead and hit that share button too. Go ahead and hit that share button. That way you can share it with like-minded individuals like yourself. You know what I mean? Like-minded individuals like yourself. So, also, just to let you know, we will not be live next Saturday, or the Saturday after. However, so next 2 Saturdays we won't be live. The thing is, we're still going to have a show though. There's still going to be a Saturday Morning Comics at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. There will be a premiere of Saturday Morning Comics. So you will not miss an episode of Saturday Morning Comics. The only difference is it won't be live next Saturday or the Saturday after. And then obviously that third Saturday, we back in the game. You know what I'm saying? We back in the mix. So just to let you guys know, as far as what's going on, the show is still going on. It's still doing its thing, So today, obviously in the thumbnail, we got a few comics to talk about. And also, we got a good bit of comic book news to actually talk about and discuss as well, man. So definitely got a jam-packed episode for you guys for Saturday Morning Comics. This week, we did 2 videos this week. I did it on Rogue Storm #2. Very good comic. If you haven't seen that video yet, go ahead and check out the video. A lot of you guys liking that video as well, man. So clearly, y'all love Rogue Storm. Y'all love Marewa, Ayodele, and his writing when it comes to Storm solo series, as well as Rogue Storm, because technically that's all connected together. There is a few comics coming out next week as well that I'm definitely going to be covering on the channel. The second we covered was G.I. Joe #13, The Dreadnought War, Part 1. Now, this is where Cobra Commander and Duke are forced to be aligned with each other. You know what I mean? So that's a very good comic. If you haven't checked those 2 videos out, go ahead and check those videos out after this one. All right, after this one. I don't want y'all to leave here and go check out the videos and, just check it after. You know what I mean? Just check it after. But I will tell you, next week, we're definitely going to be covering Unbreakable X-Men #2. You guys was loving that as well. Definitely going to be covering Mr. Terrific, the final issue in the 6-part series of Year 1. Definitely going to be covering that as well as Nova. So Nova got a #1 issue out this past week. So we definitely going to be checking out Nova as well. So Mr. Terrific Year 1. We got Unbreakable X-Men. And we got Nova. So definitely going to be covering that. So I did go by my LCS. Y'all. And I will say I had a good time at my LCS. Now, I didn't get a whole lot. I did a lot of browsing and, perusing and stuff like that. But one thing for sure that I get was Deadpool. Obviously, hold on. Let me rephrase. Batman, Deadpool, the DC Marvel crossover event, because this is it right here, the DC version of the crossover event. Obviously, Batman is at top billing. Obviously, this is a thick book because not only did you have Batman and Deadpool crossover, you also have Doctor Strange and John Constantine. You have Harley Quinn and Incredible Hulk. You have Miss Marvel and Static. So I got a lot to say about this book, and that's one of the main things we're definitely going to be talking about. So very thick book. If you haven't gotten this book yet, you need to go to your LCS and pick this book up, man. Very good book. Very good book. Now, I did pick up an indie comic from Image, Final Boss by Tyler Kirkham. Very good book. I read this morning before the show. Definitely going to be covering this, okay? Very good book thus far. Hopefully, I can reach out to Tyler and see if we can actually have him on the show and actually talk about Final Boss, because we're going to talk about this in splendor. Now, obviously, you know, the Punisher Red Band is out, and obviously that's not digital, okay? You got to go out there and physically get this book. You got to go to your LCS and get this book. So, you know, taking the lazy way out, getting that thing digital, don't have to go anywhere. Nah, you're going to have to go to the store to get this thing. So, Punisher Red Band number 3 is out right now, man, and we definitely going to be talking about that as well. So, those are just only got 3 books this week. And obviously, we're going to be talking about some comic book news, some news that came out like 48 hours ago, and about a good friend of the channel, Stephanie Williams. Obviously, Stephanie was on the show a few weeks back, and she's the writer of Street Sharks, and she's the writer of Roots of Madness and Temporal and Nubia, as well as many other titles. And she is involved in a new DC issue. And obviously, if you are a fan of Star Trek, we're definitely going to be talking about that too. Definitely going to be pulling that up. So we're going to jump into this crossover event, the DC Marvel crossover once again. And I put a book up again, Batman and Deadpool. I'm going to tell you right now, off rip, off top, the DC version was better. The DC version was better. It really was. I mean, as far as overall story, right? And I know we covered the Marvel version, like the Marvel DC crossover event, because it was Deadpool at the top and Batman at the bottom. But you know, obviously. So there was some stories I was vibing with in the Marvel crossover. Obviously, Batman, Wonder Woman and Captain America. And obviously, Batman and Deadpool, really good stories. Those 2 really good stories. For me, those are top 2. Right, and there were some of the stories I was like, nah, y'all could have had that. The amalgam deal, didn't too much care for that. Now, I will say something about the amalgam universe. If you're not familiar with the amalgam universe, it was created some years ago when they had a DC versus Marvel, or Marvel versus DC, depends on which way you're looking at it, crossover event, right? And that's where 2 cosmic entities basically said, you pick your champions from each side, and depending on who wins, the other universe will get wiped away, right? But at some point or another, those 2 universes merged. So you had Batman and Wolverine merged together, and they called themselves Dark Claw, which was actually, that was really good. And you got Super Soldier, I think that's the name, with Superman and Captain America merged together. There was some mergings that was like, damn, that's dope. But there was others that was kind of like, I can't vibe with that. I can't really vibe with that. So it's a love-hate relationship when it comes to the Marvel universe. And I think that's like that with a lot of fans. You know, there's some characters that's actually pretty dope. And there are other characters kind of like, damn, you could have left that on the table, man. You could have just left that over there. But when it came out to the Marvel DC crossover, yeah, that Lobo one, yeah, y'all could have had that, man. Yeah, y'all could have had that. I didn't want no parts of that. But as far as the DC Marvel crossover event, this was actually pretty good. I will say this is one of those physical only type of situations, and you had to get it. You had to get it how you live, basically. So I'm gonna pull up some of the images from here. Some was able I could find as far as hitting that share screen button here. Let's see. There we go. All right. Yeah, so this is some of the artwork here for Batman Deadpool. Now, I will tell you the story is narrated by Deadpool, right? Which, you know, they got, you know, even though he's a Marvel character, he got that grace. But 2 cosmic entities meet at a bar. And that's basically how it started. It didn't say it just like that verbatim, But it basically started out that way. Two cosmic entities met at a bar, and they leave the bar, and grown up things happen. And while they were merging, the universe merged together, and you got Batman and Deadpool. But what's funny about it is Deadpool knows about this, right? He calls on like, okay, I'm passing the first wall, I'm passing the third wall. Oh, hey guys, how are you? That kind of thing. So he's narrating the story, and what Batman and Deadpool are inside, they're not in like the real world. What they're being, I wouldn't say controlled, but you remember Cassandra Cain from Deadpool Wolverine, right? What she was able to do, how she was able to get inside your head, which is Charles Xavier's sister. Basically, it's the same thing, but with Batman and Deadpool, right? And Deadpool is like, I wouldn't say annoying Batman, because he actually acknowledges the fact. He said, hey, am I annoying you with all this random talking that I'm doing? And Batman was like, listen, I had a kid for a sidekick, and my arch nemesis is a disfigured clown. Like, you pale in comparison. You like, what are you even talking about? You know what I'm saying? Did you say something to me? So it's like he has a mental block whenever Deadpool just like starts talking. So basically what happens with this is they figure out Cassandra Cain is inside their head. But the thing is, as always, Batman plans. Okay, Batman plans. He said, listen, the one thing I can plan is that there's one person that's not going to listen to me, and that person is Damian Wayne. So at that point, Damian is outside. Like, he's seeing Cassandra, doing what she's doing to Batman and Deadpool, and he actually interferes with that. Now, what's funny about that, like with Grant Morrison, it's like he put himself in the comic book. It's like he did that on his own, and he made himself a character. He don't call himself Grant Morrison, but he's like the cosmic typewriter. And let me pull up this information here. There we go. Yeah, so this is like inside of their heads, basically. And Deadpool makes a joke about his feet. Now, Rob Liefeld is one of like the premier artists and writers for Marvel back in the day, back in the 90s. And he was part of that core group of guys that left Marvel and pretty much told DC, we're not going to join you either. We're going to create our own comic book entity called Image Comics. But one thing that Rob Liefeld get teased about is drawing feet. And so Deadpool makes a joke. He don't mention Rob Liefeld's, name. He just says, these feet are irrelevant at this point. He's kind of paraphrasing at that standpoint. But Grant Morrison put himself in there. Like, obviously, he don't say that's his name, and he basically typing out the plot of this issue, right? Of this series. Like, he's typing out the plot. And Cassandra Cain actually sneaks up on him and, pretty much put her hands in his head, and little unbeknownst to her, yeah, I typed that plot out too. I control everything, that sort of thing. And but how it starts out, though, it did start out with Batman. Batman meets with Victor, otherwise known as Sportsman, and he lost his wife, and he's basically on research and detective work trying to find out what happened to his wife and who's the culprit, who's behind all of this. But all of this is going on outside of reality. So by the time they was finished with everything, it was like a happy holidays type of deal. It was like, yeah, it's one of those fun comics and not to be taken seriously, but it was just like, oh man, you go to the drugstore and you see a comic book on the carousel, and you just pick this book up, and it's just such a fun book to read. Give you that feel-good feeling, you know what I mean, before you go outside to play on a Saturday. That's basically what this story was about. That's basically what this was. And really good story. I'm tiptoeing around it because I know this book came out on Wednesday. I don't want to spoil like too much when it comes to that, but this obviously is the main event for the DC Marvel crossover event. Definitely the main event. And it's been the main event on the Marvel side too when it came down to Deadpool, Batman. But one thing that is cool though, Deadpool acknowledges the fact that he met Batman before, and he met him in the last Marvel DC crossover. You know, like, oh, you know, I hope we do this like last time. You know, that kind of thing. But Batman just calls him Deathstroke or Slade Wilson, and then that annoys Deadpool to a point, and then Deadpool have a response to that. So from that standpoint, I would definitely say very good read. The other good read though that was very interesting to me, and it kind of like left you wanting more, is Doctor Strange and John Constantine. I was looking forward to this crossover event, and I'm glad it was able to like flesh out the way it did, or to a certain extent, because it didn't get as much of pages as the main event of Deadpool and Batman, but this was the second largest. One thing you got to know about Marvel vs. DC crossover event, you got the main event, you got the second largest when it comes to pages, and it gets smaller as you progress. And it seems like it's like that with DC Marvel side of it. So what happened is they acknowledged the fact, John Constantine acknowledged the fact that there's two entities that's crossovering with each other. Like my horrors, like the things I deal with on the mysticism side, is mixing in with Doctor Strange. And so he goes to this the Santorum to see Doctor Strange. And obviously John Constantine is a dick. Okay? He's a dick. And he's going to try to steal things, and he acknowledges the fact that, yeah, I'm a dirtbag. And Doctor Strange is like, hey, bro. And he took the Eye of Agamotto, right? He stole the Eye of Agamotto. He lifted it, basically. And Doctor Strange's like, all right, man, just to warn you, this is the Eye of Agamotto. Just because you think my side of the universe is sunshine and rainbows and dealing with and all bright and colorful and cosmic entities, which is kind of like picking at each other, basically. Because Constantine is basically saying, like, my world is better than yours in the storytelling side of things. Like, my world is more dangerous than yours. And it's almost like he's bragging about it, And Strange was like, all right, you can have that, but the things that I dealt with, though, on my side, yeah, don't think this is just a walk in the park compared to what you're dealing with. So it's almost like, I wouldn't say trauma bonding, but it's definitely in a way of sharing war stories. Now, I do say John Constantine is an interesting choice. Not saying it's the wrong choice, because I feel like it is the right choice. At least it leads to better storytelling, because you got two different personalities that collided with each other. Because if you put Dr. Fate, in there, I feel like the story wouldn't have gotten fleshed out the way it should. Because Dr. Fate and Doctor Strange, I can't say similar personalities, but it may lead to a dull book. And I feel like John Constantine was a better choice. That's why I say interesting choice. I mean interesting when it comes to a better choice. Dr. Fate, maybe a one shot. You know what I mean? Maybe a one shot when you put Dr. Fate in there and Doctor Strange. I mean, now in the Amalgam universe, there's Doctor Strange Fate, which made sense. And like in my younger years, I would definitely pick Dr. Fate first. But as I get older, John Constantine is definitely the better choice. That's the better choice for a crossover event. Based off of personality and how they clash. You could have actually made this run a little bit longer. You can actually make this do like a little mini series, honestly. And I feel like that would be an interesting read for everybody. Because there's a lot of John Constantine fans and there's a lot of Doctor Strange fans. So Marvel, DC, kind of like make that happen, Make that happen. Make that happen. So the other story is, for me, it definitely did not get enough pages, is the Static Miss Marvel crossover event. And really did like this story. It just basically it didn't talk about like the universes merging together. It's just like, well, we got this monster in town, and who are you? I'm Miss Marvel. Who are you? I'm Static. Let's work together. I'm gonna put you in my group chat. That kind of thing. So really did like the story for what it was, even though it is the shortest one out of all the other stories. It did leave us wanting more. It's like one of those feel-good moments, like, these two heroes meet, and they got a mutual enemy, and we took this enemy out together, and let's go do something. that kind of thing. And that's basically what that comes down to. So I will say, even though this was the shortest one, I would definitely say this is one of the better stories. Now let me just give you the rundown. So there's Batman and Deadpool. There's Doctor Strange and John Constantine. There's Harley Quinn and Incredible Hulk, and there's Static and Miss Marvel. And I'm gonna tell you, like I said in the beginning, DC did a better job. I ain't gonna hold you. The DC version was better. Just saying. I enjoyed this book more. Not saying that the Marvel side of the crossover was bad. I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I did with this one. I didn't enjoy it as much. Really did love this crossover event. Really did enjoy it. If you haven't picked up this book, go ahead and pick it up. Now, there's plenty of it. Now, I was surprised because I went to my LCS on Thursday. But you playing Russian roulette when you do that, because Wednesday is usually comic book drop day. That's usually when the new issues drop. You rolling the dice if you show up the next day, because you don't know which book is going to be a hot book and which book is not. You know what I'm saying? Some books that you think that's going to be like shit hot, you got plenty of issues just sitting there waiting. And some issue and some comics that you think that's not going to be hot is gone. Like that Absolute Batman annual, gone. I mean, it was gone within minutes. It was out. Like there was an empty bracket on the shelf, and they had to replace it with some other comics as a supplement. That was it. Like that annual is hotcakes. You know what I'm saying? So, but I will say, when I went to my LCS on Thursday, there were plenty of issues of Batman Deadpool, mainly because the store owner ordered plenty of copies, because I think last time it was running out. They were running out very quickly. So that's the thing is with that. So the next comic we definitely going to cover is the Final Boss. Like the Final Boss is really good, man. Surprisingly good. This is issue number 1. Highly recommend to you guys. So what this book gives me solo leveling vibes in ways. Like just in ways. All right. Like bear with me when I say this. So you got Tommy Brazen. It starts off with like World War II, right? And he talks about his grandfather and how his grandfather and his fellow soldiers got on this island and they discovered these ruins. And that's where it stops at. And you see Tommy wakes up out of his dream because he's constantly having a dream about his grandfather. And obviously he's narrating about his dad not being around. And he used to be in security, and someone lost their life at his hands, even though he was protecting other people. And from that standpoint, he got fired. And so he's doing like odd jobs. Like he's fighting, like he's doing cage fighting. He had like five fights, and he's getting paid like $400 or $500 per fight. And he's trying to make enough money so he can go travel to go find his dad and see what exactly is going on. So if you notice, it's not here, but if you notice, it's not on this artwork either. He have this necklace, this amulet, and it's the same shape. It's like this, I wouldn't say pulsating vein, because it's not like moving. It's like depicting a movement in the comic, but it's like a mark in his sternum, right? And he got hired. Well, somebody dropped out as a number 1 contender, right? And he jumped into this cage fight, and this dude is like 12-0, and he's like hulking type of dude, like masked dude, and like Bane size. Like he's Bane size, not Tommy Brazen. Like Tommy's in great shape, but the guy that he's fighting, that is the champion, the cage fighting champion, he's like towering over him. And this dude is murderous. This dude killed his manager, like took his head and squeezed it like a grape, like busted like a grape. Like before the fight even started, all because the manager was like, listen, when you win this fight, I'm gonna get my half, I'm gonna get what I'm paid, blah, 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 blah. He was talking real cash money trash, right? He can't spend that money now. He can't do that. He can't do that. So, but Tyler Kirkham done his thing with that. He definitely done his thing. Like it's extremely violent. It does that cage fighting element, and he's like, listen, you know, even though his granddad used to tell him stories about what exactly going on, him fighting like a god and coming out on top, and here's this amulet in remembrance of me and that kind of thing. He called on his granddad. He said, listen, if there's any truth to the stories that you've been telling me, you told me that you fought gods in these ruins. This is a grown man. This is like man and muscle. Like, if you can overcome that, I can overcome this, because that cage fighting guy, he was doing some work on him. And something happened with him. It's like he got stronger. Not like in a supernatural kind of way, but he definitely got stronger. Like his hits was connecting, his hits was doing damage. And when his opponent was down, something happens. Don't want to ruin it for you, but something happens. And then ultimately it's the wording at the end of the comic, right? It's the wording at the end where I guess whoever he defeats, like physically, like you get in a physical fight type of deal, you take some of their stats. Like, you know, their strength or their conditioning, or then it's like some kind of XP type of thing. So that's why I say it gives me solo leveling vibes. There are other side characters in issue number 1. Not even gonna say their name because I want you guys to go out there to your LCS to actually get this. But Final Boss looks really good, man. It looks really good. High octane, action packed. I don't know I can effectively cover this on the channel though, because of the level of violence. You know what I'm saying? Because YouTube is kind of funky when it comes to that, and you know they might flag it. So I don't want to like cover that and then have to take it down or whatever the case may be. However, I will keep you up to date here if you want me to keep you up to date here on Saturday Morning Comics, if you want me to do that. But Tommy Brazen, Final Boss, definitely want to jump on that. I actually had a good time reading this book. To give you like a sneak peek. So this right here is what's on his chest. And from the person he defeats, I guess he's these branches, and you got to work your way up to the top. So obviously there's going to be like a final boss at the end of this. I don't know if it's going to be a mini series or what. Also, the one thing I was telling you is the stats will pop up. Now, I don't think he can physically see that. I think that's for the reader. It doesn't really express that. But very good comic. Not bad for the first issue. Hopefully we have Tyler Kirkham on the show at some point in time, because I really want to discuss this. I really want to discuss Final Boss and what is his vision when it comes to Final Boss. Now, the other comic we definitely going to cover is Punisher Red Band number 3. Now, this again, you cannot get this digitally. You got to go to your LCS and get it. And if you're not sure what a red band is, red band, especially when it comes to Wolverine or Punisher, it is way more violent than a normal comic, and it is wrapped in plastic. So a kid can't just go get it and pick it up and go to the front desk and say, hey, I want this comic book, because 9 times out of 10, the comic book is not going to be sold. Like, it's going to have to be an adult. You know what I mean? That's how violent it is inside. My critique to this, though, is that when you're using swear words, when you cussing in this book, it like kind of like squiggles it out. Like, hey, if this is a red band trailer, I'm not red band trailer. If this is a red band comic, like, uncensored that bitch. Like, no holds barred. Now, I will say, if you get reading like Punisher Max, that is no holds barred. Now, what's funny about that, the ironic thing is that is not wrapped in plastic. Like the Max, Punisher Max is not wrapped in plastic, but the red band is. So in issue number 3, it basically picks up where it leaves off, like with issue number 2, and obviously he hops on top of this car. He takes this guy out. Now, in this issue, it explores more. Like, you remember that old lady that helped out Frank at issue number 1? Yeah, Tombstone like paid her a visit. Like, Tombstone paid her a little visit, and he's torturing. Like, for Punisher to go one-on-one with Tombstone at some point, because this didn't happen in issue number 3, but it's going to happen though. It's going to happen, and when it happens, this thing is going to be nuts. nuts because I don't think in recent memory Tombstone and Frank ever went one-on-one. And obviously Kingpin is in the middle of this too, because Kingpin is the one who performed surgery on Frank to the point where he could control Frank and tell Frank to go do certain things, to go handle certain missions. Because what Kingpin is doing is taking his competition off the board. And so how he's performing that, he's telling like Frank, these people need to be punished. And yes, these guys are bad guys, and you wouldn't need mind control for Frank to go after these bad guys. But the fact that Kingpin is the puppeteer in this, he's taking his own competition off the board with his main soldier, you know, at his beck and call. So I would say Micro. That's also the X factor in this. Kingpin also has Micro and controlling Micro and telling Micro, this is what you need to do for Frank. So he performed surgery on Frank, hand to skin. That's what he did. Somehow, some way, he got his hands on Micro. Got Micro like strapped to these machines, telling Micro to tell Frank to do whatever he needs, what needs to be done. Right? That kind of thing. So Kingpin is moving a lot of chess pieces around to get his competition off the board. Now, the other part of it is that, like I said, Tombstone. Tombstone is that X factor in this because they're playing around with this. They're definitely playing around with this. Like with Benjamin Percy, he's playing around with this because Tombstone and Frank did not meet yet. So from that standpoint, Tombstone is torturing this detective on the kitchen table. Got this man strapped to a table with a cleaver, chopping off digits, like chopping off body parts. And in front of this old lady, he said, listen, you can stop this if you tell me the information that I need to know. Like I can chop off his hands, I can chop off his arm, his legs. This man even said, I'm gonna chop off his balls. Man, that like Tombstone is that's a sick man. That's a sick man. He threatened all these things, right? And so he grabs this old lady and said, look, tell me what you need to know. Tell me what I need to know. And she's like, well, he's not a bad, he's a bad man. Like he's dark hair and he got a skull. And that's all you saw. And then clearly the FBI shows up. Tombstone do not leave prisoners. Okay. Tombstone, even if you give Tombstone that information, he's still going to ice you. It now depends on the information that you give him, depends on how he takes you out. He might take it out slowly, or he might do like a quick kill. It is what it is. But what he did to that old lady, man, woo. And what the FBI like walked in on and the police, yeah, it was nasty work. It was nasty work. It was nasty work. Now, also in this issue, Micro have some sort of consciousness about him. Like he's not completely brain white. Because Micro tells him, say, look, because Kingpin does something that, okay, you thought Kingpin was a good guy in this, especially in issue 1 and 2, how he was controlling him and how he was taking out bad guys, right? Something happens because Punisher is stopping a sex trafficking ring, right? He opens this trailer and he sees these women in the back of the trailer. But Kingpin says, he tells them, yeah, take them out because they've been depraved. They're prostitutes. They're this and this and this. Like, he's telling Frank to kill these people that's been trafficked, right? Because they already been tainted or whatever the case may be. But one thing you got to know about Frank, when it comes down to mind control, a lot of people may not realize this about Frank Castle. Even though he is human, there's telepaths that's not able to get inside his head. Like actual telepaths. Because of the messed up things that goes on in his head. He's like, listen, you don't want to go in my head because you mess yourself up doing that. But this is not telepathy. This is like mind control. But this is kind of like a lower level of it. And when Kingpin told him to go take out these people, he refused the order. Like he willed himself past that order, which led to Micro telling him, that's how you find out Micro is not like completely out of it. And he tells like Kingpin's like, this man is injured. Like he's been through battle after battle after battle. Like whatever you're saying is not going to have a super, like 100% effect on him. You got to give him time to rest. And Kingpin listens. He's like, yeah, you're right. I can't run my toys into the ground. So he takes his tube out of Micro, and Frank is at rest. But again, Micro is not 100% brain white. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it there. So from that standpoint, there's a lot of meat and potatoes inside this issue, and I'm skipping across that. But that's how Red Band number 3 ends. Basically, like, Frank realizes that somebody is in his head. And how he's getting it out of his head and how this thing ends was crazy. So this is probably like some of the best Punisher in a long time. Like in a very long time. Very long time. And I highly recommend. Like I said, this is like a physical only type of deal. And I definitely can't cover this on the channel regularly. I definitely can't do it because the level of violence that is in this. Like, people getting shot point blank range, people getting amputated. Like, you know what I'm saying? Tombstone is on some other shit. You know what I mean? Like, he's on some other stuff. Like, it's freaking wild. Okay, it's freaking wild. But highly recommend Punisher Red Band. Highly recommend Final Boss. Definitely recommend Batman Deadpool crossover event. And now we got to jump into some comic book news, man. Obviously from Bleeding Cool. And what I was telling you about Stephanie Williams as well. Definitely going to cover that. So according to Bleeding Cool News, it says that Eve L. Ewing and Tiago Palma are launching X-Men United, a new ongoing X-Men series to follow Exceptional X-Men and reopen the door to the X-Men School of Mutant Kind, part of the line's upcoming Shadows of Tomorrow, which takes place after Age of Revelation. Remember, I told you, not the biggest fan of Age of Revelation, just ready for this thing to end so we can go in the shadows. But it says that welcome to Grey Matter Lane. Learn to survive the experience. Build a school. Charles Xavier told them, and the X-Men have done so, but in the manner nobody saw coming. Welcome to Grey Matter Lane, a place where mutants anywhere in the world can come together in unity to teach one another the skills needed for their survival. With the greatest X-Men as teachers and a campus unlike any before seen, is the crossover of the X universe as a student body from across the globe works to take mutant kind to the next step in their evolution and to cope with the brewing threat to all of their number. Now, it says X-Men United forms the center point of the mutant world, said the newly titular conductor of X, Tom Brevoort. Steeped in the tradition of the series of the Astonishing X-Men and Wolverine and the X-Men, Grey Matter Lane is a place where all the major players in the X world will come together to fight, hook up, and hash out their differences. Now, there will be action, drama, faces old and new, dangers galore, which young mutant is critically injured on the first day, and which X-Man is responsible. What secret is uncovered in Sinister's lab, and what distance separated couple rekindles their connection, and how far will Cyclops go to bring the whole endeavor to the ground? Whoa. So is Cyclops bought this? Like, is Cyclops he ain't feeling this apparently. But from what I understand, it says that it brings together legendary X-Men as teachers like Emma Frost, Wolverine, Magneto, and Storm on staff. Notice I haven't seen Rogue. Obviously in this picture you see Rogue, Gambit, Psylocke, Nightcrawler, the whole nine. But you got Storm as a teacher, Magneto as a teacher, Wolverine as a teacher, Emma Frost as a teacher. I wonder how this plays in with the other events that's going on. Obviously, I'm gonna get that Cyclops. I'm gonna get that Magic and Colossus. I'm gonna get that. So, will we see like the X-Men together under one mansion type of deal? But it did say never before seen, like unlike anything you've seen before. So, I mean, I know that's kind of like a catch-22. Like when it comes to people saying that, it's like, yeah, we say this, but when you read it, it's like, oh, it's just like 2010. It was like, back in the 90s. It's like this. I'm very much interested on how this plays out. Is this a part where if I'm a mutant, I can just stop by and get some training and then leave? And maybe that's like a central hub for like training. Maybe that's what that is. But we'll see. Now it says like the ambitious series unites the entire X tapestry from different generations, factions, and eras under one exciting initiative. turning the classic concept of a school for mutants on its head with the introduction of Grey Matter Lane, founded by Emma Frost, and with faculty including Wolverine, Magneto, Beast, Rogue, answer my own question, and Storm, and guest instructors from throughout the Marvel Universe. It said Grey Matter Lane is more than simply an academy. It's the central hub for mutant interaction across the world and beyond. This venture represents a bold undertaking that requires all hands on deck, but not all of the X-Men are ready to embrace the idea of another mutant institute for higher learning. So you got Stefano Caselli as one of the covers. So clearly Cyclops got some beef with this. Cyclops ain't feeling this. And I feel like maybe he might have some points to that, because at any point in time that the group was together, you know, obviously the biggest was Krakoa, like the Mutants United on Krakoa, and then the end of Krakoa, which is honestly some of the best writing, like in the beginning, especially with Jonathan Kirkman and everybody else that was included with, you know, House of X, Powers of X, and stuff like that. But I mean, that kind of left people separated. You know, you got Merle, Alaska, you got Louisiana, and then obviously with the exception of X-Men. I mean, Emma Frost knows what she's doing. Like, Emma Frost is an Omega level mutant, and she's very smart in how she's running things. But if she's having a run-in with Cyclops and Cyclops got beef with it, obviously, I just hope it don't lead to like a big crossover event where people are at war with each other again, because that's like a rinse and repeat, and I don't like that. I don't like that. Not one of the things I really want to do. I really want to read. But I would definitely pick this up, though. X-Men United. Definitely want to pick this up. And it drops March 11th. So we got some time. So clearly, whenever January hits, when we hit that Shadows of Tomorrow, and we maybe throughout these X titles, these X books, we will see what leads up to that point of X-Men United, because obviously they're not just going to just blanket us with X-Men United with no lead up to that. So clearly an event has to take place, or something major has to take place in order for this, you know, to show up. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll definitely see what happens with that. Now, next thing we got as far as news is concerned, we got some Image comic stuff. So it says that Image Comics is kicking off 2026 with one of its strongest months in recent memory, blending long-awaited returns, bold new launches, and enough blood-soaked crime, cosmic horror, high fantasy absurdity to keep every corner of the comic shop buzzing. Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips brings back fan-favorite anti-hero Ricky Lawless in the latest criminal graphic novel, 5 Gears in Reverse, ahead of the new Amazon Prime video series. Whoa, I did not know that. Now, one thing, okay, Ed Brubaker. Remember when I told you there was like a GCPD Gotham? I did like an issue on the video like a while back. But Ed Brubaker, like, it got that noir feel about it. There's a book called Criminal. You can find that on Galaxy Comics. And not Galaxy Comics, but there we go. Global Comics. I said Galaxy Comics, but Global Comics. And I think it's in my library. I want to say it's in my library. Hopefully. There we go. Right here. You got Criminal, Kyle Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips. Very good read. I'm currently reading that right now. Loving it. It got that noir feel to it. It has that noir feel to it. So he's a very good storyteller. And had no idea it was going to be an Amazon Prime series, and I'm going to be locked and loaded. I'm going to be locked into that. And it says William Harris, Lee Lorich, and John Paul Mavinga launch a dystopian bright white sky. Simon Burks and Willie Roberts drop off the thing on the doorstep, with Brett Bean unleashes the gloriously unhinged looking dork #1 in major milestones like The Scorch #50. Wow, The Scorch got 50 issues. That is wild. And to the return of Radiant Black in stunning black and white, a new Universal Monsters horror epic with the Phantom of the Opera, and the finale of Good is Dead. And the February 2026 is shaping up to be a month where Image reminds everyone, while it still rules creator-owned Comics. Now, it says the brand new criminal graphic novel features legendary Ricky Lawless and the crazed tale of how he and Mallory fell in love in the midst of a crime spree. And one of the wildest, most action-packed books that Brubaker and Phillips have ever done. It says, we delve deep into the life of one of the criminal's most complex, tragic characters, Ricky Lawless, as he tries to pay off a deep debt to a mobster while things just keep going from bad to worse. 5 gears in reverse, he will have a longtime criminal fans cheering the return of Ricky Lawless, and new readers will find it perfect jumping on point to the greatest crime comic series of the 21st century. So, yeah, definitely going to be diving into that when that drops. Like I said, I'm currently reading Criminal by Ed Brubaker, and real good stuff. Real good stuff. If they're doing like an Amazon Prime series of that, they got to do it justice, and I have no qualms about it not being that. So we'll see what happens. We'll definitely see what happens with that. Now, the last thing, I seen this like 48 hours ago, and I seen Stephanie post something about it. And y'all are aware of the new history of the DC universe, and especially with the DCKO event that's going on and how everything is canon now. Like, we know with Superman dying at the hands of Doomsday back in the 90s, all the way up. So there's no like new 52 or anything like that. And with the new history of the DC universe, it's putting things in line. So there's no like branching off. It's giving you the history. But in the history of the DC universe, they added the Dakotaverse in there in main canon continuity. But there is a new issue called New History of the DC Universe called the Dakota Incident #1, which drops in February. And it says, spinning out of the pages of the New History of the DC Universe, uncover an untold moment in DC history where murder leads to an all-out war between the heroes of Dakota City and the U.S. government. As their home becomes a battlefield, what must Static, Rocket, and the others sacrifice to keep their loved ones safe? But as heroes fall in the past, the stage is set for their return in the present. Now, notice how this thing starts. What must Static? That's the first name on the marquee. Remember what I said like last week or so? When I say, yeah, even though Icon is like the first one out of like Milestone, whichever the case would be, Static is arguably like the most famous one, right? You see, with his own television series, him being involved with Justice League Unlimited. Obviously, this Batman Static Beyond issue that's out right now. If you haven't seen that video that I put out, go ahead and check that video. But yes, these are the creators. We got Joseph Illich, my homie Stephanie Williams, Nicholas Draper Ivy, Morgan Hampton, Carlo Pagulayan, Valentin Delandro, and Edwin Gallman, with the cover artist is Diego Alotegui. This right here, I'm locked in. I am locked in. I want the variant covers. I want the A covers. I want all the covers, man. This right here, I definitely want this. I hope this is a cover. I want this. This is pre-ordered. Once this thing goes for pre-order, it's a wrap for your boy. I want that. And especially people that are fans of Milestone, definitely going to be one of the ones that get this book. Now, shout out to one of our Patreons subscribers, Will here in hand. Shout out to my boy. Huge Milestone fan. I already know this is on his pull list. I already know this is on my boy's pull list. Already know. He probably got this information before me. You know what I'm saying? He probably got this information before I did. But definitely going to check this out. Now, one of the other things that Stephanie is doing, and when I'm speaking of Stephanie, I'm going to go into this thread, is if you are a fan of Star Trek, I highly recommend this book for you guys. It's not out yet, but she did announce it. And let's see if I can find it here. Oh, also, if you want to get Roots of Madness by Nation Press, it's also by Stephanie Williams. Roots of Madness, #4. It's on its 4th issue. Comes out February 2026. So if you can definitely read issues 1 and 2 and possibly 3. And let's see if I can find it. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Got it. And this is from IDW. Now, IDW announces Uhura twist on City on the Edge of Forever in the February one-shot Star Trek series. Now, it says, for 2026 Black History Month, IDW's publishing is reviving its Star Trek Deviations alternate history comic banner for the new Uhura-focused one-shot story. Now, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that name, okay? Not really much of a Trekkie, but I'm getting that book. So just let you know, IDW last explored the Deviation story back in 2017, where they told a tale where Romulans made first contact with Earth. And in February, the new Threads of Destiny book will explore what happens when Lieutenant Uhura travels through the Guardian of Forever, not to Edith Keeler in 1930, but to the era of the American Civil Rights Movement in 1963. Okay. It said this special one-shot features a Lieutenant Nyota Uhura. In the 23rd century, she explores the far-flung star systems with her crew on the Enterprise as part of her mission to communicate and build bridges with life found across the galaxy. But in the 20th century, humankind was working to build understanding among themselves with African Americans on Earth, championing the civil rights movement and using their voices in acts of protest to end racial segregation and discrimination. Now, by the way of the Guardian of Forever, Uhura is yanked back through time to 1963. There, she'll be joining all those fighting for equality and justice and reconnect to why her work as a communications officer is perhaps the most important work of all. And it drops a day after my birthday. It drops February 25th, 2026. Very much anxious to read that. Very much anxious to read that, man. Definitely going to support the homie Stephanie Williams. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. Star Trek has a lot of lore. You understand? A lot of lore. And I had to make a choice. I had to make a choice between Star Wars and Star Trek because I don't think I had enough bandwidth to do both. I don't think I had enough bandwidth. I do say that Star Trek The Next Generation, I do have memories of that because that came out in the 90s or late 80s, early 90s with LeVar Burton and so on and so forth. And I do have memories of that. I also have some core memories about Deep Space Nine, but not like in depth. You know what I mean? It's just like certain things that I recognize, like certain faces or whatever the case may be. But Star Trek is a lot to take in. You know what I mean? It is a lot. You got the regular Star Trek in the 60s. You got Next Generation in the 90s. You got Deep Space Nine. You got the Star Trek series that's on, I think it's on Paramount Plus, if I'm not mistaken. And you got comics. You got series. You got Lower Decks. You got movies. It's a lot. It is a lot. So for me, if I decide to go into the Star Trek realm, just like to look into this, I'm gonna need guidance. I'm gonna need guidance because just like with any major franchise, there's some parts that you could just freely skip. You know, there's some parts that just not well received that you shouldn't just look at. You know, I'm gonna need some guidance. If I'm not saying I want to jump into Star Trek, I'm not saying that, but if I was to do that, I would definitely need guidance. Definitely need that. But as far as Threads of Destiny, as far as Star Trek Deviations, as far as IDW One Shot with Stephanie Williams, Earth Smack the Mad Scientist is going to buy that book. Okay? He's going to buy that book. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to cover that one shot. Especially if it's available digital, I'm going to cover that on the channel too. Definitely. And also, hopefully, we can have Stephanie back on the show to talk about this experience of Threads of Destiny. I'm glad of this announcement, though. Very, very much glad of this announcement. So, she also is doing Street Sharks as well. She also is doing Street Sharks. And let me share this bit of piece of information with you guys before we get out of here. And this was like 20 hours ago. I said 48 hours, but that's 20 hours. And she says, because this piece of history deserved its own separate post, a project I'm thankful to have worked on. New history of the DC Universe of Dakota Incident #1, written by Joe Illich, Morgan Hampton, Nicholas Draper-Ivey, and me. And obviously, I'll just, and variant covered by Dennis Cowan. Definitely getting that Dennis Cowan. And Dan Jurgens, Yasmin Putri, and Carlo Pagulayan. So this is like some of the artwork here, man. I'm digging that. I'm digging that Icon Superman deal. I'm definitely want that. That's my favorite cover right there. That is my favorite cover right there. And now, as far as Ignition Press, Roots of Madness, right? By Ignition Press, go ahead and get your order in. Okay, go ahead and follow Stephanie Williams right here, Steph_I_Will on Threads. Also, Temporal. That is another book that she's actually working on by Mad Cave. And this is about time travel. Time traveling thieves. I mean, I'm all about that time travel. She definitely covered that, and obviously there's Street Sharks as well. So you definitely want to support the homie Stephanie Williams as far as comic books as concerned. Now, I might have some comic book recommendations for you guys to read. I might have some stuff for you to read, for you guys to check out here. And I'm going to go to my Global Comics. Okay, I'm going to go to my Global Comics. And Temporal. I'm going to recommend Temporal for you guys. This is Stephanie's writing. Ghost Pepper. This is also from Image Comics. If you are a fan of anime, if you are a fan of like manga and like action-packed kind of things, you definitely want to read Ghost Pepper. Ghost Pepper is really good, very much entertaining. If you are a Batman fan, I recommend reading Batman Dark Patterns. Very good stuff. It goes into like the noir and detective side of things, but Dark Patterns is really good. Really good. Okay, now I know you heard me mention this before, but I know you're talking about Image Comics. The Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips Criminal Coward. You definitely want to read that. And if you are a fan of the Batman series that's going on right now, the Batman solo run, Batman number 1, 2, and 3, with Matt Fraction. This is another one of Matt Fraction's works. Adventure Man. Adventure Man is good. I'll say continue reading, but let's see here. I am here, right? So this is Adventure Man by Matt Fraction. Artwork is really good. The writing is really good. Definitely want to check that out. Definitely want to check that out. And that is it for my recommendations for you guys. Man, listen, I hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday. Hope you guys have an awesome Saturday, man. It is a pretty decent day outside. And if it's a little chilly, keep yourself warm. Get yourself warm. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, but go outside and enjoy the Saturday. Go visit your LCS. You know I always encourage that. Go visit your LCS, man. See what comics is out. See what comics that you're missing out on. See what graphic novels that you're missing out on. Some trades. Go ahead and see that, man. And you might want to get an extra box, too, to put your comics in. Because I know I need it. I'm filled up to the brim. Like, if you look, I got 3 boxes right here. 3 boxes of, like, comic book, like, stuff, right? And I'm going to need more boxes. I'm going to need a shelf. And if you got an issue like I do, if you got stuff in your backlog and you just see new books out and you just don't want to miss out because you got FOMO, which is fear of missing out, at some point you're going to catch up. I'm not going to encourage you to not buy books. I ain't never going to encourage you to do that. Never going to encourage you to do that. If you got some stuff in your backlog and you see some new books out there, I'm not the one to tell you to stop buying books. I'm going to just tell you to keep buying it. Treat yourself. I'm going to do it like my homie Lauren, shout out to Lauren, like tells me. Like, if I'm debating on buying something, she's like, hey, man, you know, treat yourself. You did everything responsible today. Treat yourself. Yeah, go on and treat yourself. So, but yeah, you already know what to do. Hit that like and subscribe button and that notification bell. And if you are a newcomer, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you like our content. And yes, be on the lookout for Unbreakable X-Men number 2 on the channel. Be on the lookout for Nova. Be on the lookout for Mr. Terrific Year 1, the button, issue number 6, like the finale, because that came out like 2 weeks ago. So I'm definitely going to get around to covering that as well, because I covered the entire series. So, I mean, I counted robbery not to cover the finale. And I have been enjoying it thus far. And obviously the DCKO event, I think DCKO drops next week, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully we can get some coverage on that. If we don't get coverage, because obviously this is Thanksgiving week next week. You know, everybody going to be around family, hanging out with family and friends and stuff like that. So you probably would get the DCKO event the following week. Not next week, but the following week after that. But like I said, Saturday Morning Comics will still take place at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Even though it won't be live, it just will premiere on a Saturday, okay? So just Just be on the lookout for that. But enjoy your guys' Saturday. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.